All right, great to have your company this Tuesday. 2 trips to China in 1 month. Are these the actions of a worried man? Finance Minister Bill English has just returned from another visit to the nation to get a first-hand look at its market aimed amid slowing economic growth. Obviously, we're all concerned, but he's gone there to check it out. This, as part of his trip, he's been visiting high-growth inland areas and meeting with senior counterparts in Beijing. Bill English joins me now. Bill, good morning to you. Welcome back.
Good morning, Paul.
2 trips in 3 weeks. Are you a desperate man?
No, it's just circumstances, a long scheduled official trip. And then the Asian Infrastructure Bank was completed surprisingly soon, and I went to represent New Zealand at the sign-off because we'd been the first developed country to get involved in it.
Right. OK, so it was sort of fortuitous, but while you were there, you particularly went around China's inland regions. How does a trip like that work? I mean, if you're truly going to gauge the economy, how does a finance minister go about doing that?
Well, you try and talk to a range of people. You can go to China, and they are very good at organising discussions with their very senior politicians and also with people who run the large government organisations. But I also made an effort to get to some of the New Zealand-related businesses and to Chinese businesses on the ground so that you get a feel for what they think is happening to the economy to balance that against the official view.
So how would you describe the vibe then? Are they concerned about their economic activity?
No, I wouldn't say concerned. They're going through the phase of their big investment push winding down somewhat. So when you drive around, you see what you'd expect to see. Lots of roads, lots of new roads, lots of new apartment blocks, but some of them are empty. So it's pretty clear that part of the economy is slowing down a bit. But consumer demand, which is what drives New Zealand income from China, looks to be still in pretty good shape.
It's interesting, though, isn't it? Because China has been stockpiling essentially everything, including infrastructure. I mean, my understanding is they've even stockpiled some cities that people don't live in yet because they are preparing for growth. To what extent is that a concern for us?
Well, that has happened to some extent. I would say it's a bit more of a concern for Australia and therefore indirectly a concern for us. Our focus is on consumer demand. There are more people earning higher incomes because that's what I'm hearing from the businesses, not just the economists, and they want higher quality products.
There has been, I wonder if you're worried about this, because I've been talking about Fonterra, particularly last week, obviously, with the dairy prices consistently low and getting lower. And there have been a lot of commentators who've said, you know, Fonterra should long before this have been focusing on the fact that we add value, and the world, and in particular China, want the higher quality, the perception of higher quality that we have around our product. Should we have been doing more with regard to selling up the value and the quality of our products?
Look, I think, of course, you could always do more, but they have done a good job of establishing New Zealand as a high-quality brand. And by high quality, we mean food safety, because that's the fundamental concern of Chinese consumers. Now, that's been tested a couple of times in the last few years, and we've come through those tests as a trusted brand, and I think that's quite an achievement. But of course, more can be done because the competition's coming. There's no doubt that the Chinese dairy industry itself is growing, and they are trying to achieve the same things, the same kind of branding as Fonterra, who remain ahead of the pack, but they'll have to work hard to stay there.
So China's our second biggest market right at the moment. Do you think that we have too many eggs in the Chinese basket?
Well, look, we have quite a diversified set of export destinations. China represents somewhere between 20 and 25%. You listen to some people, you think it was 70%. Well, that's not true. China itself is a very diverse economy, a bit like the US, even though it's still not as developed. And that is, there's a whole range of markets within China, and different things are going on in different markets. So look, our exporters are always going to sell where they can get in the long run the most profit. So at the moment, for instance, the US dollar has strengthened relative to the New Zealand dollar quite a lot. In fact, quite a surprising amount in the last 3 or 4 months. So I would expect exporters will be recalibrating which markets they're going to, including the US market. We've weakened against the Australian dollar, so that's going to help in the Australian market.
Would you imagine that, say, in 12 months, no, 24 months, would you imagine in 2 years' time, China will still be our second biggest export market?
Yes, I think that's likely. When you look at while dairy prices are down and Chinese growth is flattening off to some extent, there's other part of our exports are going very well. Tourist numbers from China will continue to grow. I went to one of the kiwi fruit resellers. The volumes are going through the roof. Prices are up pretty well. Meat prices have held up reasonably well. Quite a lot of continued interest from China in our wool and also other horticultural products. New Zealand companies turning up there to sell our IT products in the Chinese market, which is a bit of a challenge. Some seem to be able to do it. So I think the picture is still pretty positive.
All right, just one final question. What does wood pigeon taste like?
Well, maybe I've eaten some. I have no idea. But apparently you're not meant to know.
No, that's right. And what they do, because they're bloody cunning, they mix it in with chicken, so you don't always know, as you say. So you can't give us a definitive answer.
No, but I can tell you what chicken tastes like.
Nice. All right, Bill, thank you very much for joining us. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Finance Minister Bill English just back from China.